Well, it's Elijah Campbell from the early game here at the scene of the crime. Scene of the crime here at Williams-Brice Stadium. Well, I don't think it's just one crime tonight. Vanderbilt 31, South Carolina 7. The Commodores snap a 16-game losing streak against the Gamecocks, and they do so in emphatic fashion. And I think the biggest takeaways, the biggest stories of this game kind of begin and end with the availability of Lenore Sellers. Now, Vanderbilt scores on the first drive. Carolina responds with maybe one of their best drives all season. March the ball down the field. Rasul Faison punches it in. He actually had a pretty solid night. Offense looks like it's ticking a little bit. Both offenses stall out. You get into the last two drives of the first half. Vanderbilt scores, really puts the pressure on you to have to get some type of points during the 2-minute drill to be able to at least keep it within striking distance, going into halftime. Lenore Sellers gets hit high. He gets hurt. He's on the ground for a while, and it doesn't look good. Obviously, Lenore Sellers does not return to the game. We have no word as to whether or not he will be available for Missouri next week. We have no word as to whether or not or what his availability looks like for the rest of the 2025 season. And really, the 2025 season kind of hinges on that availability, because what happened after was nothing short of a train wreck. Starting with, man, where do you even want to start with this? The offense, once Lenoris went down, Luke Doty comes in, and you're able to move the ball a little bit, not well enough. You turn the ball over 4 times, and ultimately that's what kills your offense. You figured your defense maybe be able to keep you around long enough, but Vanderbilt's first drive of the second half, they march the ball right down the field, and they score a touchdown on a 44-yard explosive play. That was the backbreaker. To me, that was when this game ended. The game ended at that point. The energy in the stadium, the energy on this sideline right here completely zapped at that point in time. And what was a 21-7 game, a 14-point game, felt like a 40-point game, right? It felt more insurmountable. Just when you thought you were figuring some things out on offense, clearly you didn't do well enough to be able to finish a couple of drives. Now, Carolina only had 4 drives in the first half. You scored on the first one. Second one, you take it all the way down the field right over here where you get into the red zone. Lenoris kind of got duped on a play for Vanderbilt, which is one of those things that Vanderbilt does really well. We've talked about a lot on the early game, myself and Preston Thorne, where they're really good at disguising their coverages. They're disguising what they do at the line of scrimmage. Sometimes they look like they're going to bring 8, and they end up dropping back 4, and they're really only rushing 4. Or, they're showing one look, but they bring a defensive back off the edge, and they blitz that way. Vanderbilt was really good against Virginia Tech last Saturday in disguising what they do pre-snap. And Lenoris was a victim of that on that play where defensive lineman drops back into coverage. Lenoris doesn't see him, tries to make that pass to Oscar Attaway, who's kind of running a slant route. It gets picked off. That kills the drive. You're not able to get any points out of that. And then you had another drive completely derailed because of a couple of atrocious pre-snap penalties that ended up resulting in a 3rd and 33, right? You're not picking that up, You got lucky and picked one of those up in Atlanta with Rasul Faison, but that's not going to be the norm, right? So you only get 4 drives in the first half. Really only 3 with Lenore Sellers. You get a chance before halftime. Lenoris then gets hurt. Offense comes back out second half, and Luke Doty played all right. I mean, nowhere near good enough, but the offense was able to get into Vanderbilt territory a couple times, but you had an Isaiah Gustav fumble, a Luke Doty interception at the end of the game, and then you turn the ball over on downs twice on 4th and short. One of them a draw play where I don't really love on 4th and inches, handing the ball off backwards a few times and running into a wall, whereas you probably could QB sneak it, right? You probably could QB sneak it and have a better chance of success. And then the other one too, Vanderbilt just sent a ton of pressure. They blitzed pretty much everybody, right? You can only have 11 guys on defense at once, and it felt like Vanderbilt blitzed all 11 guys. Luke gets overwhelmed. He gets drilled as he throws. It's a fumble. Another turnover. The turnovers absolutely killed the offense, and unfortunately the defense didn't help him out much either. I alluded to that first drive in the second half where Vanderbilt kind of just marched down the field. They were able to put it together a couple more scoring drives, but it also just felt like Vanderbilt kept converting on third down. And the failures for South Carolina's defense is about the failures on third down. I think Vanderbilt was about 5 for 7 maybe on third downs, and every single one of those felt like backbreakers. So they kept extending drives and extending drives. Vanderbilt dominated the time of possession. Another thing Preston and I have talked about all week leading into this game is what Vanderbilt likes to do is extend those drives and dominate the clock. Hoard the ball and bend the clock to your will. Vanderbilt was able to check that in terms of the objectives tonight, because anytime they got into a third down scenario, they were seemingly picking it up. Whether it be their triple option attack, short passing game. Eli Stowers didn't even really have a wild statistical game. Diego Pavia didn't even really have a wild statistical game, but they were so methodical with how they moved the ball, creating third and shorts, running a lot of misdirection, making Dylan Stewart or Brian Thomas, whoever the edge defender is, or in one instance it was Brandon Cisse off the edge when he came in as a corner, putting those defenders in conflict and making them have to choose. Do I crash in on Pavia at quarterback, or do I stick to the guy that the ball's going to get pitched to, but even then you're giving up a couple of yards from Pavia. Vanderbilt's offense is so good at just putting defensive players in conflict, and South Carolina was a victim of that. It was a coaching clinic by Clark Lee and Vanderbilt's staff. As much as we're going to want this week to react by talking about how poorly South Carolina played, and they did, I'm not here to say they didn't. They played poorly tonight. Vanderbilt did come in with a game plan. They came in ready. And not only did Carolina get outplayed, they got outcoached tonight too. And I think that's a credit to what Clark Lee does. Vanderbilt offensive coordinator Tim Beck put on a play calling clinic tonight, right? I know a lot of Gamecock fans probably have some coordinator envy because of just how perfectly designed that offense was, and how in the second half, when it came down to having to get yourself off the field and give your offense a chance to get back in the game, you flat out couldn't do it because Vanderbilt kept extending drives, and they did so because they were just seemingly one step ahead of you the entire night. It was a fiasco here in Williams-Brice Stadium. The crowd was awesome. In the press box, sometimes you don't really get to hear how loud it is down here on the field, but you could hear how loud it was. You could feel the noise even in the press box. And the home field advantage that you had in this game didn't matter. It didn't matter because, again, you got outplayed, you got outcoached. And what makes it more bleak is you don't know if Lenoris is coming back. As soon as you thought you might have figured it out offensively, yes, you didn't put more than 7 points up on those 3 drives, but you saw something more from the offense. You didn't see 3 and outs, and that was my big thing coming into this game. You can't have a lot of 3 and outs against this Vanderbilt team because the style of offense they play, where they smother the ball, hold on to it for more than more than half the game. They always dominate time of possession, which is why 3 and outs have been crucial. Shane Beamer did not attribute any of the defensive failures to fatigue. He said if it is, then they have bigger issues, and I completely agree with it. I think Shane really kind of hammered it down to the 4 turnovers, backbreakers. Even with Lenoris out of the game, 4 turnovers, backbreakers. You're not going to win. You're not going to beat anybody with 4 turnovers. You would have had a hard time beating South Carolina State in this stadium last Saturday if you turned the ball over 4 times. You took yourself out of the game. And with the offensive line too, I thought the offensive line in the run game blocked a lot better. I thought they pass protected a lot better, but they had a hard time picking up blitzes, like on the play where Lenoris got hurt. And there was one play that kind of stalled out a drive where they had a hard time picking up a blitz. There were 2 instances that were really bad where they couldn't pick up blitzes, and that hurt. But for a lot of the passing plays where Carolina was able to get chunk yardage down the field, those required good pass protection, and they got it. I thought they played better, but it still was nowhere near good enough to win the game. The frustrating part with the offensive line tonight to me were the procedural penalties, the false starts, not getting lined up properly. You had way too many procedural penalties, and quite frankly, the offense shot themselves in the foot with penalties and turnovers. I don't care if you're playing Vanderbilt. I don't care if you're playing, the Citadel. I don't care. If you have all those pre-snap penalties and procedural penalties, you are going to hurt yourself and lose yourself a football game. That's what happened tonight. It's not just that Lenoris went down. It's also the penalties, the terrible turnovers, the inability for your defense to get yourself off the field. As good as the defense played in that first half, it does not matter if Vanderbilt can extend drives and be able to put points on the board while also taking 5 minutes at a time off that clock. And that's what we saw tonight. It was the perfect bleep storm of stuff that happened. We play Sandstorm in the stadium before every kickoff, but it was a different type of storm that happened here in Williams-Brice Stadium. It doesn't look good for the rest of the season. Now, I don't feel good about Lenore's chances at all playing against Missouri. I would be stunned if he did. I don't know what his availability like is for the rest of the season. But whatever this team has, they have to dig deep down within them to find some motivation and find that will within to be able to go to Missouri and get a win. Because you lose against Missouri next week and Lenore's is out for an extended amount of time, the outlook on this offseason is completely bleak. And if you thought the energy was bad in this building tonight, it will get even worse if things continue to get worse. Wish I had better stuff for you, but we'll be taking your calls. 803-404-6100. Reaction Monday is, well, not too far away. It is almost midnight here right now at Williams-Brice Stadium. So 24 hours and some change. That's starting at 6 a.m. on Monday. Myself, Preston Thorne, and Jen Jensen will be with you on the early game. Tyler Head and Jack Veltri, the Extra Point League, always the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. And then 12 to 3 with the halftime show, more Tyler Head Sports Experience. And then from 3 to 6 with Jay Phillips and Terry Ford. We'll be taking your calls, we'll be taking your texts. And to quote Fraser Crane and Fraser, we're here for you. Well, we are here to listen to you. So it will be a venting day on Monday. It will be a not so fun reaction Monday, but we'll let it out. We'll talk through it. Talking everything about this team and what there is to look forward to going the rest of the season. I'll sit back, I'll watch this game again, have some more observations for you, but until then, enjoy your NFL Sunday, and we'll talk to you Monday morning.